let's discuss layers. Layers are the most powerful things, one of the most powerful things in Photoshop. Over here we have a layers panel, and there's our tabbed panels, which we know about. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this layers panel, I'm going to drag it right out so that it is out and we can see it very large. Drag it down a little bit and take a look at what's going on. As I told you or briefly mentioned, if anybody knows anything about cell animation, Walt Disney, anything like that, when you're doing a movie, you have all this animation and it's cell by cell by frame. These layers right here in the layers panel happen to be just like those clear sheets of acetate piled on top of each other, that when something's on, everything is transparent except for what's on the acetate. So right off this bat, if we look down the left-hand side of our panel, our layers panel, there's little eyeballs. Those little eyeballs turn on and off anything on the layer. So we can turn these things on and off, and you can see everything that's going on. Or I can click and drag down through, and it will turn them all off. Or I can click and drag up through, and it'll turn them on. That's a much faster and easier way. If you notice over here, we have a little thumbnail of what's going on in that layer. If it's hard to see that, you can go over here and you can change. We can go here to where is it? Panel options. Here we go. And you can say I would like to make those large so that you can see more of what's going on. And in my case, I am not going to do that. I'm going to take it back to the small one and say OK. Actually, I'm going to take it to the medium one. Panels option. There we go. There. Now we can see what's going on. Notice how some of these are named and we have like a little padlock. This padlock means that layer is locked. There's nothing you can do to it. You can't move it. You can't paint on it, stuff like that. And that's a good thing every now and then. The background, if I turn that off, notice when I turn that off, we see the checkerboard. Some of these thumbnails have a checkerboard in the thumbnail. That checkerboard means that those layers are transparent. When you see this white background layer, that means that that's a white background. And it is a background. That background can't be used as a lot of things because it's a background. To unlock that background and make it just a regular layer, all we have to do is click once on the padlock and it unlocks it. So now if I want, let me undo that. See the padlocks on there? If I want, notice opacity's not is grayed out. We can't change the layer modes or anything like that. But if I unlock the layer, boom, it says, oh, it's no longer a piece of like illustration board or your board in the background. It is now a layer that we can change stuff, and we can change the opacity of it. We can change the mode. We can do all that stuff, but it has to be unlocked. You can name your layers. So if we double click on that and I want to name it, I can name that layer. And this is an extremely good habit to get into, is when you're building a Photoshop file, name your layers as you go. Don't wait, because once you get working with Photoshop, average Photoshop file from my situation is usually between 10 to 25 layers. And if you've got all these layers and you're trying to work on something, and as you can see, some of these images aren't the greatest, and especially if it's just one little thing like an eyeball or a head or some blades of grass or a tree, things that you want to need to use, label those layers and it's much faster and easier. And if you label them as you go, just get into the habit, it works well, and it makes a lot more sense in the end. You will thank yourself because you can just do things much faster. Now, these layers, this is what's great. If I take layer 1 here, which is this text layer, and drag it down below, see what happens? It is now going behind the image because the stacking order of the layers works from the bottom up. So if I take the background layer now and drag it to the very top, you see nothing because the opaque white background layer is on top of everything. So if I move it down 1, all we're going to see is Zillaboy. Take it down 2, you're going to see Zilla and the swirl. Take it all the way down, you're going to see everything else. And then if we turn it off, you're going to see the checkerboard pattern, which makes up the transparent background. So let's take a look and see what's going on in these layers. Not only can we play with these layers, turn them on and off, we can also delete the layer. We can just hit the garbage can and say, yes, I would like to delete that background. Down here in the bottom of our layers panel, we have a couple of new buttons. Not a couple of new buttons, a couple of buttons. Create a new layer. So if I click on that, whatever layer that I am on currently, when I add a new layer, it will put it directly above the layer that I was on. We can also make sets or folders, groups, and start organizing our layers. When you get tons of layers going on, organizing your layers with groups is phenomenal. I use it all the time. We'll talk about it in a little bit. Create a new adjustment layer. Adjustment layers are a fantastic way to adjust things that aren't that are non-destructive ways of editing with Photoshop, and we're going to talk about them as we go. This one right here, layer mask. This is a fantastic tool. We are going to use layer masks a lot, and we're going to do this so that we can get things the way we want to blend things and change things. Then we have an FX or layer style button, which we add drop shadows, bevel and emboss, and stuff like that. So let's, now that we kind of have seen a file with layers and how the layers are all set up, let's start playing with some of this.